So if we dive into the numbers here, this is the snapshot of the market over the last 7 days. Um, this comes straight from our MLS, RE Colorado. That's where we get this information. It's on the homepage as soon as I log in. So it's something I see every single morning and every single afternoon and every single evening, every time I log into my MLS. So if we start at the top and look at the new listings, we have 59 over the last 7 days. That's not too bad considering it was a holiday, coming off of a holiday weekend, holiday week last week. And we still have some coming soons, which is 19. Uh, not all listings are entered as coming soon, so that's not really a huge indicator of what's going to be coming soon. They have to. The agent has to enter that in prior to it becoming live. A lot of agents just go live right away. So coming soon isn't really an indicator totally of what's coming soon, but it's a good indicator. That's a nice size number for positive inventory. Back on the market, 8. That's not so bad. Those are ones that basically fell out of contract for whatever reason, or went from withdrawn, that were taken off the market for some reason, for seller reasons, and then put back on the market. Basically, just comes from any other status other than expired to back on market. Price increase, never really got that one too much. Happens sometimes if a seller pulls off the market and puts it back on the market after they do some repairs or something. But even so, it's not often that you want to increase the price of your home. So when that happens, it's always kind of an odd thing to me. I've been doing this for 14 years, and that's always been a questionable move. If you're not selling your house and you pull it off your market to do something, like to fix something that people are complaining about, and the chances are you probably should just fix it and keep the price the same. But hey, what do I know? I just do this for a living. So things in this market are confusing to a lot of people every day, and some things confuse me every now and then. I'm only human, don't know the answer to everything. I've been anyways. So the price decrease, that's one that you kind of want to look at. And again, it doesn't always mean anything. We're still in a market where sellers believe that they're in control. So I still even talk to some sellers that want to test the market, put their home on more than they're even anticipating on getting it for. I mean, it's okay to put on 10, 15, couple bucks more, just so you can negotiate down to exactly the price that you think the value is. But in this market, I recommend going for as close to a price as possible. The market will always determine the value of your home. The market doesn't care what you think your home is worth. The market doesn't care what your agent thinks the market's worth. The market doesn't care what buyer agents think it's worth. The market cares what they think it's worth. And until we get an offer, it goes under contract and it sells, then that's what they tell you the market value is. So, price decreases, that's a little more than usual. We don't really have comparisons. Unfortunately, this cool chart doesn't have a comparison, so we can't show other weeks, other months, other years of what this is. But like I said, I do this all day, every day, look at this multiple times a day. That is more price decreases than we've seen in some time. I should say the last couple of months we've been seeing this number, but as a general rule, that's more than normal in a normal market. So that could be an indicator that things are starting to move a little bit towards the buyer's side. But up here, up in the foothills, that's not really necessarily true either, because we're a different market up here. It's always desirable. But we are seeing price decreases like this is a little bit, I don't want to say concerning, but a little bit of an indicator of the direction that we are not going to see the upward pressure on home value like we would hope to see. Doesn't mean that we're going to see a correction or any sort of downfall, but we are going to see a more gradual growth, a less heavy growth. Um, as far as pendings go, That's basically under contracts, pending, whatever you want to call it. That's not a bad number for sellers, especially with 59 new listings. But of course, pending does not necessarily mean a close. We are seeing a lot of buyers terminating, a lot more than we would like to see. Although the back on market, that would be, that would be them falling out of contract and going back on market. So that number, the last 7 days, is a little lower than it has been for the last few months, but it's still, we are still seeing buyers flaking out, pulling out for reasons that they would not have in previous years. So pendings, that's a good number to get rid of some of this inventory that we're building up. Withdrawn, that's basically, that's not expired. That's not a contract expiring. That's a seller pulling it off, like I said earlier, for some reason, for seller reason. Do they, were they getting buyer feedback that, there's a weird smell? Should they tear up the carpet, put some new carpet in, and then put it back on the market? We don't know exactly why they withdrew, but it is still an active contract with a listing agent, but not live in the MLS. Closed transaction, that's self-explanatory. Last 7 days we got 24 closed, 45 pending. So, we are starting to see some things come off of the market. We are also, I'd like to see few more closed, a little bit more market activity. And expired is either the seller terminating the contract or it running its cycle for however long they had their contract with the listing agent. So that's the last 7 days in a nutshell in Evergreen, Conifer, Morrison, Bailey, Buffalo Creek, and Golden. So the next slide we'll be moving right on to. Looking at the next data points that we want to check out, this is the number of active listings over the last 12 months. And it kind of tells a little bit of a story, just like any of the numbers that we look at. This is, again, the same area that we discussed on the market snapshot from the last slide. This is from July of 2023 to this month, unlike uh, the last one, which was only 7 days. So same area as well. If we look at this, we can see the trajectory. It tells the story. We're getting back to where we were in July of 2023. The next slide is going to tell you that although it looks like we're doing well, creeping up to 600 again, unfortunately, the next slide is going to be the last 10 years of inventory, and it'll tell a little bit different of a story. In short term, yes, this looks like we're doing well, but we are still extremely low on inventory. My videos for the last 4 years have been saying, boy, we have low inventory. I wish the inventory would pick up a little bit. Well, over the last 12 months, we're seeing a little bit of inventory pickup. One of the reasons is today we are currently on an average national average of interest rates of 7.13. And obviously, as interest rates tick up, so does inventory because we are leaving some buyers behind. We're pricing some out. Even though we're a higher end market here in Evergreen, Colorado, interest rates still matter. I mean, money still matters no matter what price point you're at. There's a reason why the higher price points are the higher price point. Money matters to them just as much as it matters to the person who is buying their home for their first time and just starting out their career or what have you. I mean, money matters to everybody. And when we're looking at 7.13, 7.25 interest rates, that's mighty that's mighty high. I've seen a few a little bit lower. There are a few people that are lucky enough to have paid all of their bills on time for the last decade and don't have a whole lot of debt right now. They're getting a slightly lower interest rate, but let's just say somewhere around 7%. And while we're talking about interest rates, I'm just going to throw a little something out there. My folks bought their house when I was before I was born. I think that they were somewhere around 18% interest rate. So it's all relative, but as I was discussing with a client the other day, it's what people remember. It's not not many people remember 18%, and it was also a different time back then. Yes, homes were a lot less, but people were making less. I mean, there's a lot of interest rates are a tricky thing, and they absolutely 100% drive the market one way or another. No matter what anybody tells you, if there's an agent that tells you any different, I would be a little cautious of that agent. I'm a little concerned about interest rates. Not to be political, but it's not seeming like they're going to be going down anytime soon. I've heard the experts talking, a couple of months ago, oh, we'll be at 6%, 5.5%. And I kept saying, I don't know. Have you been to the grocery store? It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. And now those experts are starting to change their mind a little bit and coming in where I've been saying for the last, I don't know how many months, that we're not going to see under 6.5. I don't think. At least my crystal ball is telling me we're not going to see under 6.5% this year, and most likely it's going to be hard to tick much below 6.5% in 2025. But that's my crystal ball. I'm not a mortgage expert, but I'm kind of a reality expert. And reality is telling us that things like that are. It's an election year, but still, the last thing we need is to really crank inflation back up again. It is slightly ticking down a little bit, which is a good thing for everybody. So let's just kind of see where interest rates go. If you have to buy, if you have to sell, if you have to move, just do it. I mean, don't try to time the rates, don't try to time the market. I always tell people if this is not an investment property, if this is your primary residence, buy it and you'll ride it out and it'll work out for you in the end, almost always. We're not going to see a 2008 deal anytime soon, so that's not anything that anybody needs to be concerned about, I don't think. There's just so many differences in the market and the way that we have safety nets set up. I don't see anything coming like that anytime soon, at least hopefully not again in my lifetime. So, anyways, jumping into the actual data, we're starting to get back up to about 600 active listings in the area. As you can see, it ticked down a little bit slightly from May. We did have some good buyer activity because rates ticked down a little bit. I mean, I think they went down about 0.25%. So we did see a little bit more buyer activity. Um, we're definitely higher than we were in January, but not quite as high as we were in July and August and even September, October. We're about the same as October last year, which again wasn't a good number to begin with. So we really the I kind of like to see buyers have a little bit more of a choice anyways. There was too long for too long there we were seeing buyers. There's a lot of buyer regret out there. There really is. From the last 3 or 4 years, a lot of buyers just kind of jumped on the bandwagon and said we have to buy, we got to get it. Rates are low, and they kind of settled for properties that they weren't particularly fond of because that's all they could do. There just wasn't a whole lot of other options out there, and the options were flying off the shelf. I mean, we were, there are lines out the door to see the listings, and there's a deadline. You saw it on Saturday. The deadline was Sunday to get the offers in, and they had the decision on Monday, and they had multiple offers. So I mean, it was just a machine that just didn't slow down. So there was a little bit of buyer regret from the last few years, which actually I think is going to start helping moving forward. Once the 2 years is up on the cap gains waiting period, I got a feeling that we're going to see a few more houses come back on the market, and people starting to really kind of start to look for the property that actually really 100. Well, no property is going to suit your needs 100%. Sorry to disappoint you, buyers. We're going to start seeing buyers looking for houses that get 80% and 90% of their checklist. If you find 100% of your checklist, either you're you're pretty easy to please, or you really lucked out, or you're going to spend a ton of money. One of the two, because getting 100% of your wish list is pretty hard to do and has been pretty hard to do for 5 to 10 years, at least in our market. So, anyways, moving on to the next slide is going to show you just because the last 12 months snapshot is showing us creeping up to a better inventory. The next slide is going to put you back in check and show you some reality. So here we go. So here is where we say Oh my, that's not what I thought. So this is the number of active listings since January of 2014. And I was around back then. Actually, I was around 4 years before that. So I've been doing this a little bit for a little while. And actually, the couple years before that, we had even a little bit more inventory, but we won't get into that. Let's just focus on the last 10 years because that'll be depressing enough. So this is when you could pretty much pick out the home of your choice. I I think I remember I looked back the other day on one of my blog posts, and back then um, I was writing blogs about Evergreen, Colorado's luxury real estate markets, homes over $1 million. Well, now $1 million is our average price point, so that'll get you your normal average home. Uh, our luxury market starts somewhere around 3 million now, probably. But again, this isn't to depress you. This is just kind of letting you know that I'm sure that there may actually even be a couple of buyers from back then that said that, man, prices are a little too high. I think we're going to wait. So this one's for you guys. But anyways, um, the number of active listings, again, same areas, same ones that we've been chatting about. This whole video will be about the Denver foothills area up here, just west of Denver and just east of Summit County, going a little bit up into Summit area. But anyways, so this is 2014 to 2024. As mentioned before, I mean, we are ticking up. We are starting to see, if I drew a trend line from January of 2021 up to today, I think that, we can tell that, just by looking at it, that the trend line is trending upwards. It's just not trending upwards as quickly as we would like to see it. So, at our peak, well, not our peak, but the peak for in the last 10 years, we are seeing it was, the summer of 2014 going into 2015, we had almost twice as many listings as we do now. Two times more choices, two times more houses for people to choose from, two times more ability to, I mean, 1,200 houses back then, that was an awful lot. That was just active listings at the current time. So, we were selling a lot more. That was 1 month. That peak was one. Actually, it looks to be closer to like 3 months. But either way, I mean, as opposed to having 600 listings for the entire every month for the entire summer last summer, we had the same amount in 1 month. So this is kind of an indicator. Like I said, we're trending upwards, so I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but we are starting to, we're still far from where we could be. I would like to see a healthier market. In the summertime, having close to 1,000 listings. In the slower time, I'd like to see it drop down no later than 800. But we haven't seen that for quite some time, and absolutely pre-COVID days was the last time we've seen anything like that. We may get up there. I mean, although we are starting to see things, we're seeing more listings, but we're also seeing more sales. So will we get back up to that point anytime soon? We don't want to get up there too quickly either. I mean, that could be a huge market correction. But again, I don't see this market correcting too much. We have a lot of pent up buyer interest. And again, we don't see a whole lot of lateral movement. I mean, back in the day, even back in 2014, 15, 16, we saw I don't know what the term is. I made up a term called lateral movement. Basically, people buying and selling in the same area and staying, you list your house and you're like, yeah, I just kind of want to change. I've owned this one for 15 years. We can list it, get one a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger for whatever our needs are at that time. And we're just not seeing a whole lot of that. We're not seeing a whole lot of people buying an evergreen and staying in evergreen to buy another house. We just aren't. But that was a large part of our market activity. I did a lot of it wouldn't be considered double end deals. I helped sellers sell their home and buy new homes back in the day. Don't see that much. We see some folks moving from up the hill or down the hill up to here. That I do quite frequently. List their property down in Lakewood, Littleton, whatever. They want to get out of the traffic, get out of the city down there. So they sell down there and buy their dream mountain home. that I've done before, in recent days or recent months, but not like we used to. I mean, that used to be a large amount of our business was just lateral movement. And that pretty much sums up the last decade. It has trended downward for since 2014. Actually, before 2014, like I said, if we could go back even further, I can guarantee that there was more on the other end up higher. As far as active listings. It trended down, hit COVID, trended down even more and more drastically. And now, like I said, we are starting to see a little bit of an upward trend, but not nearly as quickly as it went down. The number of active listings, I should say. Nothing else at that time went down. Everything else was continuing to go up as active listings were going down. So that would be the last 10 years. Again, I would like to see, man, 40, 50% more listings at least to keep this a healthy market. Still, nobody's in control. We're still not seeing buyers or sellers having a whole lot of control. We're not seeing inspections waived. We're not seeing uh, uh, any contingencies being waived. We're starting to see sellers paying for buyer 2-1 buy downs or buying points for the buyers. So actually, sellers are giving a little bit more to the buyers than they have in a long time. But that does not indicate that it is a buyer's market by any stretch of the imagination. For one, price per square foot is going up. Average home value is going up. So it is not indicating that anybody is truly in control. Basically, sellers, if you have a good product, buyers will pay for it. And if you have a bad product, then buyers are going to beat you up a little bit and kind of get a deal on it and have a few things taken care of, but under inspections and such. But it's not anything like it used to be, during the COVID rush. When we were seeing uh, buyers writing deals that were basically making their earnest money go hard at the time of contract. I mean, it was getting a little bit rough to be a buyer back then. And again, that kind of goes to the point that I mentioned earlier about most likely we will be seeing uh, some buyer remorse again coming soon. And it's only going to take a little bit of time. We're still appreciating. I don't see. I don't see if they bought back during Rona, unless they really went crazy and went way over list, which a few people did. Then they may be slightly upside down. Uh, that's just how it is. But not many. I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 months worth of market activity that you could probably look back on and say, there's quite a few people that paid more than it's worth right now. And if you obviously I have to mention commission because that's kind of how I get paid and feed my family. So, if you throw realtor commission in there or agent commission in there, then you're talking a little bit, you're talking maybe a few more people are upside down. But other than that, I'm liking what I'm seeing that the trend line is going up ever so slightly. Again, I'd like to see it a little bit more drastic, but not too drastic. And there's a lot of reasons. I mean, our property taxes are going up a little bit here. I mean, a lot of people are wanting or thinking about selling, and if that happens, and if we push them out too quickly, I'm thinking that we are going to see a much more inventory pickup uh, come in especially the seasonal time, because as you can see, the peaks and valleys are obviously, I wouldn't call it an off season because Colorado does not really have a real estate off season. But as far as inventory goes, it could be considered an off season. So yeah, I think that our peaks and valleys are still going to continue to rise, and especially if interest rates stay where they are or do not correct downward too much. And if they go up anymore, then yeah, we are definitely going to see more inventory. We're going to see longer days on market. All right, let's talk about price per square foot at current time. This one is, it's not always a great indicator, but I think it's a little bit more accurate than average home sale price when we're talking about what we're talking about. Um, it's because it's hard to explain why it is. It just is. At least I feel it is. Um, so if we look at this, it's not really ticking up a whole lot, but it is still ticking up. If you notice, I mean, since from June of 2023 to December, I would even go to January of this year. We had seen either flat or a little bit down. I mean, it was definitely always below 350 a square foot. So, and we dipped down in December, but December is always kind of a strange month. I've had the worst months of my career in December and the best months of my career in December. So it's really, really hard to tell. Um, December and January are just really bizarre. The holidays are different. It's just an interesting time for my profession, December and January, especially here in the Denver area. Anyways, so this is current price per square foot. It really is just kind of a. I like it because it's really just a flat out number. It just doesn't lie. It's just okay. This is what we're paying per square foot. And again, this does not take into consideration a lot of stuff. It doesn't consider acreage. It doesn't consider condition. It doesn't consider fixtures. It doesn't consider, total square foot. Because obviously, it's total square foot. Price per square foot normally goes down. Again, just normally. If you have two very similar houses, price per square foot goes down as you go up in size. But again, this is literally just, this doesn't take into a lot of considerations. It's almost kind of like how Zillow does their estimates. Obviously, nobody from Zillow has been in your home to check out the conditions of your hardwood floors and adjust for that for your price per square foot. So that's kind of what this does. So it's a little bit generic, but it's also a little bit better than the overall um, home value or sale price as far as I'm concerned. I kind of like this one a little bit more. Anyways, this one also, just like the last one, we can see a trend line trending upward. And there is going to be fluctuations, especially and this market is a smaller market than most. There's no getting around the fact that yes, this is not a but the sampling is large. I mean, we're talking over the last 12 months, we have almost 2,500 listings. That's plenty of data to decipher what we want to accomplish. But it will also have a little bit more fluctuations than, say, the Denver metro area or Denver County or however you look at it, or Adams County. So yeah, there's a little bit there's a little more fluctuation, a little bit more drastic fluctuation. But that's why you take a trend line and draw it up. And as you can tell just by visually looking at it, we are seeing the trend line starting to trend upward. Is that just because we're going into the summer months? Is that going into the fact that we still have high buyer activity, considering interest rates? That could be a possibility as well. But it's a good sign for sellers. It's also a good time for buyers because a good sign for buyers because a lot of buyers are like, "Oh no, the market's going to crash. The market's going to correct. We're going to see 2008." This is indicating that no, it's really not going to. We are the long when it comes to home appreciation, the longer the trend upwards and the longer it takes to get there, the more stable and solid the market is. It's just like a stock. I mean, if you see a stock shoot straight up, chances are it's going to correct a little bit or a little bit more, just because whatever was it emotional buys, whatever. But even with the emotional buys through COVID, we are still seeing the trend line trending up at a slow rate. It's just a really good indicator that the market values are stable and will not be correcting downward anytime soon. And again, that's just what my crystal ball tells me. That's what the numbers tell me. That's what the data is telling me. So this is a good thing to see. I don't want to see them shoot up again. I don't want to see it go all of a sudden up to $600 a square foot for 2 months, because that's just not the way the market is supposed to work. Um, so this is really showing a healthy growth. Are we going to see 25% appreciation every month like we did through COVID? I hope not. For one, we can't sustain that, and it's going to price out a lot of people. And we're having a hard enough time finding employees here for entry level and mid level jobs. So I couldn't imagine where we're going to find our people working at our shops, people working on our cars, people working in our restaurants. We just don't have that, because we're also seeing rent going through the roof because people are paying. People are upset because rent's going up, but that's because these investors, or not even the investors, the people, just ma and pa are buying homes for $1 million. I mean, that's your average home. Again, that's a 3 or 4 bedroom with 3 baths, 25, 3,000 square foot. I mean, if you're paying that much, you got to charge an awful lot of rent to sustain it. I mean, that's just how it is. So this is a nice appreciation. I'd like to see go back to 5, 6, 7% appreciation a year. That would be healthy. That would be good. But yeah, we're seeing an upward trend for price per square foot, which again buyers should be happy with that. Buyers should not want to see prices fall. I mean, I get that you want to buy when prices fall, but if prices fall, what's the bottom? You never want to try to catch a falling knife. At what point do you say, "Oh, okay, now it's going back up. Now we'll buy"? You never, unless you're the luckiest person on the planet. There might be one or two people on this planet that actually literally buy something at the very lowest point that it will be, whether it be a stock or a home or whatever. It's difficult to do. I mean, you want to try to catch it on the upswing, and that's what we're doing. Is we're gradually on an upswing. Great time to buy, great time to sell, especially if you just, especially if you captured all that appreciation over the last 5 years. Let's get that thing on the market and get your equity out of there, and then we can go from there. So thanks for hanging in there for the spring market update from me, Dan Skelly, broker owner at Orson Hill Realty in Evergreen, Colorado. And please give me a call for all your real estate needs, or just to talk about real estate or talk about what was in this video. You can call me at 303-503-8793. You can also check us out at orsonhillrealty.com or foothillsrealproperty.com. Thank you so much. Have a great day.